The following program may contain language. Discretion is advised.
Can you tell me a little something? Can you make it extraordinary? Can anybody out there tell me what it means? Well, we only talk about the media machine. Bring me everything that you got, and tell me everything that I need. Can't believe that we got through this. Now I guess we're looking back on it.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Looking Back on It. I am here with nobody today, actually. It's just me. It's my birthday today, so I thought I would bust out the gear and maybe talk about an album I really like. And, just kind of work in some cool musical elements. I don't really talk about it as much on the show, but I am, a musician myself. I've played in many bands over the years, and this album kind of always sticks out to me as like one that I've always really loved and kind of inspired me. So I thought, why not try it out? But I have also added my acoustic guitar to the mix. So this should be interesting. Like when I'm discussing things, I'll be, playing stuff on the guitar. You'll be able to hear it. I have it DI'd directly into my interface, so that's pretty cool. But really, just want to kind of talk about my week to start off, I guess. And, it's been a normal week, a little bit of a crazy work week, some would say. I've just finished 7 in a row, so I'm thoroughly exhausted. I just got back from health and safety training, or CPR and DFib, so I'm a little exhausted today, but I'm excited to talk about this album. It's not really an album that a lot of people, I think, would be on their radar. I think it's more, one of those formative albums that I always enjoy. And you know how they always say, do one for them, do one for me? This one's definitely for me. It's probably going to be only interesting to me, but hey, hope you guys have fun, take a ride along with me here and just, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. And if you guys like this style, just let me know. You can you can post on my Facebook group, Looking Back on It Pod, if you want to join. Post it on SNME under the comment thread of this episode when I post it. It should be fun. But it's here today to talk about Sunsets and Car Crashes, which is the second studio album from South Dakota alternative rock / emo band, the Spill Canvas. Spill Canvas is definitely a different sort of band. This is like their original sort of lineup. So it's hard to explain. Essentially, the album is written by one man, and that's Nick Thomas. And Nick Thomas is, one of those guys he wrote all these songs himself. He produced the album. He did all the vocals, stuff like that. And that's very much like a common theme in what I like to listen to. So, Beartooth, Foo Fighters, bands like that, the Rocket Summer, those are all bands that I thoroughly enjoy, and they all kind of run on the same platform. Maybe not Foo Fighters so much into their later years, but, I commend the actual musical brain that it takes to sit there and just arrange every single part, arrange every instrument to the way you want it, stuff like that. Yeah, this album is considered their first widespread album. It was released by 111 Records, which did Rookie of the Year. I don't know if you know that band, very popular emo band. And like I said, all the songs are written and performed by Nick Thomas. He did later add some members though for touring and performing purposes. And while it's not considered their most popular album, the mix of acoustic emo ballads and full band alternative rock tracks make this album by far one of their most unique albums, and one of the most unique albums I've ever heard as well. The dark lyrics and storytelling in some of the songs on the album are extremely powerful. Songs like Your Evil Soul, Black Dresses, and The Tide. I'll kind of touch on those later because I've kind of changed up the format today, and I will be covering a lot of the album just because I'm by myself. I got a little bit more time to talk. So yeah, you get to listen to me. Plus, not to mention on this album, some of the coolest full band and acoustic ballads, The Night Will Go As Follows is a great song. I will actually throw it at the end of this whole episode, and I have an acoustic cover that I did of it. It was one of the first songs I ever recorded when I got my setup here at my house. So it's definitely number one for me in my books. But they also have 3685, which is a really cool song and features, I think it's the only song on the album that actually features somebody other than Nick Thomas. He has a female vocalist, and I don't know her name. I think she was like one of the original members or something of the band back in 2000, when this album came out, 2004. So I think she was part of it like 2001. So she probably helped him write a lot of the songs. But it also laid the foundation of songwriting that would inspire some of their most popular songs. Like a lot of people would know a song like All Over You by the Spill Canvas, or Polygraph Right Now and Lullaby. Those albums definitely had way more commercial success and definitely took off a lot more than this album. So I think, this album is for like the hardcore, like Spill Canvas fans. Like it was more of their emo days. Nick Thomas was a lot younger, obviously. So some of the lyrical content is a little different, maybe a little bit more emo centric, I guess, like very emotional, like status on that. But I could go on about this album all day. So instead of that, let's just launch right into Riff City.
Riff Riffs are the best. Riff Riffs are the best. Riff Riffs are the best. Riff Riffs are the best.
So for Riff City this month, I actually this week, I forget, it's always 2 weeks. I get confused between this and AWTF. I apologize. We're not here to talk about wrestling though. We're here to talk about music. My pick, though, is the acoustic riff on Sunsets and Car Crashes, and I'm just going to play it for you right now, just so you guys can kind of hear what I'm talking about if you haven't heard the song before. So it's like a weird kind of, how do I explain? I'm just going to play it, and you guys can listen to it. So this little guitar riff there utilizes like my favorite style of dissonance. So it's that hammer on and alternate picking, right? So I love doing like fills like that even when I'm writing my own stuff. And you have the use of the sharp seventh, to maintain the note at the same time. That like it adds like a weird dissonance, but if you add those together, they kind of have a cool vibe. Like especially when he's playing the C, you have the right. So it's that C sharp to F sharp, or C to F sharp together, and then adding the G just kind of gives it like a little bit more flavor on it. It tends to tickle some sort of funny spot in my brain when I hear stuff like that, and I don't know why, but I thoroughly enjoy it. That actually might be a problem now that I said that out loud, that I enjoy the dissonant notes much more than a regular chord. But the voicing of these notes on that riff is just like, it's just so perfect. Like you have just a regular E minor, right? And then the little riff. But the C, the open C is so good. Like, right? It just makes it sound so good. You could even play it this way, really. Like, that's that open C that they use a lot. Like, I don't know. It's something about it. Like, is like my favorite thing to play. But it gives like a negative, or I guess minor feel. So, when that extremely like major chorus comes in, it actually hits like a little bit harder. So overall, it's just like a cool ass riff though, and I definitely enjoy playing it to this day, because the chorus is a little bit more, little bit more major, right? So like you can feel like in that one, it's just, just a little bit different, just has that, little bit more major sound, and just, really, really takes it home into like a more hopeful sound for the song. But for this month, I guess this can kind of lead into like my next segment here. For this month, I kind of changed up the format a bit. I know normally I do top 3 tracks, but with me being by myself here today, I thought, you know what, I can probably, fit some more tracks in. So I did top 5 tracks this month. So I think this is kind of cool. Like, My first pick. Sorry, overall. Sorry, I'm getting flustered today. It's really hard podcasting by yourself. Nobody tells you that, eh? But I'm excited to do it. It's just different. But for my top 5 tracks, the first pick I had was Black Dresses, and I would try to attempt to play this song, but like the opening riff on that is just so amazing. And not to mention, this song was like the first song I ever heard by this band. And it still sticks out to me as like one of the best songs they ever wrote, in my personal opinion, anyways. And I was actually introduced to them by a friend of mine, John Kelly. Shout out. I'm going to tell you a story about him and this song. Mom, turn off the podcast if you're listening. I'll wait for you to turn off. Okay, so we used to go get high at John's parents' house. I know, bad boy, you shouldn't be smoking weed. I guess now in retrospect, now that it's legal, it doesn't really matter as much, but we used to do stuff like that, and we'd crash in his parents' basement, like watching like weird movies we would rent from Blockbuster. But John's parents kind of set up their basement with a receiver and a CD player hooked up to a surround sound system. So what we used to do, we would put like an album on like very super low, and like wherever you could crash, like floor, couch, didn't matter. Like if you were lucky enough to get a couch anyways, but we would just put on albums or whatever. They would be like burn CDs, cause like we didn't really even have copies of the CDs. We would just like, we would burn them like in order of like the way we found them on like purevolume.com or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, so we're going a little farther back on this, about 20 years ago. And, just anywhere online you could find songs. But so his version of the album started with Black Dresses, because this isn't the first song on the album. But Black Dresses was the one that he put at the very beginning of it. And I don't know, it just immediately I was taken with how amazing the voicing on the chords are on this song. Like you have a lot of these like the open A. It was the first time I'd ever heard like, so that's like an A, but it's like, an A over C with like, a bit of, and it has like some stuff like that, like a lot of song. Right, and then like the B over C, so essentially it's very centered around the C, open a lot of E, right? Right, so I do like the cool use of those sort of chords where it's really hard to explain. Like essentially you're just really wandering around one note, but it makes them sound bigger than they are. Not to mention like that complicated riff that opens the song. I can't play it. If I could, I would. I will say, if you haven't heard this album, definitely go listen to this song if you're going to listen to any song, because the complicated riff at the beginning just like really ties it together, and then it just goes straight into the strumming chords. It's so cool. The song's just like, it's just so amazingly well written. And the lyrics tell a story of like, the anger that accompanies like a breakup, in a like a very dark tonal light. Like the chorus on the song like just says it all, right? My secret is fatally gorgeous, I'd die for you, but in this Bonnie and Clyde kind of romance, tell me, what would you do? My secret is fatally gorgeous, I'd die for you, but when your precious life is at stake, tell me, would you die for me too? So like, I mean, overall it's just something that I really felt at the time of hearing it, and it's just something that's always stuck with me really ever since I heard this song. And I don't know, it's just one of those songs I never skip it when it comes on. I will always listen to it. It's a little depressing, but sometimes the best music is, right? But moving on from there, my second pick for this album is All Hail the Heartbreaker. And most might consider this song, like if you've heard this album before, probably the most overplayed song on this album. I think Spotify would also agree on that, because there's like, the rest of the album's like 100,000 plays, 200,000 plays, and then this song's like 6 million, right? So obviously this song is like a more well-known song from this band, but it is by far my favorite full band song on the album, because there's only like, I think 4 or 5 songs that actually include like drums and bass and guitar and stuff like that. So this one is definitely up there for me. And I love the use in this song of his vocal harmonies. He mostly does like a lot of octaves. So like if he's singing like the lower note is like the main melody, he just kind of, sings the octave higher. It's very simple and effective, way to harmonize, and it sounds good. Like, it just works for this song, right? So, of course, the old emo chords, though, which are just essentially like bar chords or like power chords with a third as the second note instead of the fourth. So, like, the way they kind of do it, it'll be like it starts off with like a D, and it's just like a. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, it's like a. So it's just the way it drops that, you know. And then it uses heavily features on the emo chord that I'm in question. Right? So it's a D, F sharp, D again. So it just adds that instead of, you know, a regular power chord. Just adds that little bit of, you know, spice to it and makes it sound just a little bit different. There's an amazing use of dynamics to like play each separate verse, pre-chorus, and chorus off each other. I'm a sucker for the second verse. That's essentially just a variation of the first verse. And like when you kind of do that, it mixes up the song in a cool way. It like adds that little bit of flavor where it's just like, oh yeah, like I noticed the themes coming back, but it's like, oh, okay, that's different. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, it just keeps you on your toes, and they keep the acoustic guitar layered under all the electric guitar parts to fill out the overall tone, give it like a different feel. But most of all, this is my favorite song to cover off this album. My bandmate in the Shivvies, Derek Geraldo, I know he was on a couple episodes, like by now, what is this, episode 7? So he was on episode 3 and 4 with me and my other friend Matt, but he, you know, me and him, every time we get together and it's the acoustics come out and we can't help but cover this song, it just comes out. You know what I mean? Like, we're like, well, what song should we play? Oh, let's play All Hail the Heartbreaker, right? And me and him, like, you know, trade off harmonies and do stuff like that. It's just fun to play, and it's just something about that first verse though that gets me, right? Like because you know, it starts off with this acoustic intro, right? Right, and they have like, you know, just these weird pull off things. But you know what? Maybe I'll do here. I'm gonna do a little bit of singing here. I'll try and do it here. But had the notion that you make me change my ways. Bad habits would be gone in a matter of days. Had the feeling that you'd open up my eyes. Sorry. The whole new world that has since been in disguise. Right, so that, I don't know, it's just an emotional masterpiece in my mind. I do love the song. I think it's really cool. You know, it's just something I really enjoy playing, and like something I enjoy singing and playing at the same time. Obviously, it's been a while since I picked up a guitar. You can hear with my sloppy strumming. I should have really practiced before I did this. I was just so happy to get the guitar out and just talk about music. So my bad there. Yeah, from there, we kind of go into my third pick for this album. And this is a song that, you know, it's just one of those songs that like rides a really cool riff and uses the lyrics to do the heavy lifting. It's a song called The Tide. Now, The Tide essentially has one riff over top of it, and it's just an F sharp minor with a D to an E, or an E to a D, sorry, but it's like an open E to a D, so it's like a... So again, there's that use of like the open chords that kind of, it's essentially a very easy thing to play. You're just sliding bar chords down and using the rest of the notes as open, but it gives it just that extra big sound to it, right? It's essentially just a story, though, the lyrics of a crazy story, really, about 3 siblings going through like different stages of youth and adolescence, you know, and how they process their feelings and views on life, right? But the main focus is this boy, Dade, and how his idea of love is crushed by his mother, who is like abandoned or abused by her husband. That's still not clear on that one. I'm still not sure what actually happened with the mother in that song. It's very vague, but essentially this is all just like an allegory for, you know, like a Christmas Carol, essentially, where it's like, you still have time to change. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's essentially an allegory for like the Christmas Carol, because like at the end of the song, the children die by drowning in the tide, as it were, and the mother changes her tune in the last chorus, saying that love is real and live for the moment. But the haunting nature of like the two main choruses are like kind of what draw me into this song, showing like a defeatist attitude that will essentially ruins this woman's family in the end, right? So I don't know, but it's kind of just like the, and he can understand how everyone goes on breathing when true love ends. And his mother whispers quietly, and this is like the main part of the entire thing, is heaven's not a place that you go when you die. It's that moment in life when you actually feel alive. So live for the moment. Take this advice, live by every word. Love is just a hoax, so forget anything that you have heard and live for the moment now. Now, on the very last one, it kind of switches around, and that's like the dichotomy of it, where, love's completely real, so forget everything that you have heard. You know what I mean? He changes like a lot of it just to like kind of further the message or like bring the message home. But it really, they're just really cool lyrics, and it really ties the whole theme of the song together. I think it just really drives it home. Very impactful, and definitely a song that I will always listen to. But moving on from there, we're just burning through these, eh? We're not even that far into the podcast. Might be a shorter episode this week, I think. But my next choice was The Night Will Go As Follows. And I know I mentioned this earlier in the brief history of the album. This song is just an amazing ballad. It has a very simple chord progression, E major to A major, but it's like an open E major. So like, right, just a regular E, but the open A is where they start to really, right? So it's just a... Right? And I do love those A chords, that A chord, because one, it opens up to do the, all you have to do is drop one note and it sounds like, you're like the best guitar player of all time. But you can also do, you can also just move that, that pattern up. So it's A there. All I've done is move, up 2 frets with my second and third finger. Another 2 frets, you can do, it gives it like a little bit more flavor and just, makes it sound a little bit bigger. Also, that is like that A chord, when I heard that song, inspired me to write like one of the funniest songs like I ever had in high school. It was with a couple of buddies of mine, obviously Derek as well, because I only do bands with Derek apparently, but a couple other guys that I used to go to school with, Erwin and Ryan Taylor, and I had like a part that was like, right? So that like sort of weird, like you're essentially just riding on 2 notes, but it even, transferred farther into like, later bands that I had, where I always come back to that A chord. It's always an awesome chord. And this song is like heavily features it. And it's almost as if he went to like Nick Thomas. So going back, I got off the rails there. Sorry. Started reminiscing too much, I think. But, going back to the song here, it's like almost, there's a layered like lead guitar line that's all on acoustic, but it's almost like he didn't know what he was going to do. So he just like went in the booth and just started noodling over top of it. Cause it's like the right E to the A, and he'll just do something like this, right? Just kind of over top of it. And he's just really just 3 notes that are all within the same chord anyways. He doesn't really have anything going on. Like at one point he just does like a A, but it's like he just plays it lower on the neck or on the bridge, sorry. And it just gives it like a little flavor. But I feel like when you do something like that though, that's like when some of the best riffs come out, honestly. Like when I record, I most likely will not have a full idea in my head. I'll just kind of, record the backing track, maybe like a ghost track or something for guitar. And then I'll just sit there and just kind of like noodle around with like a lead line. And eventually you do come up with something if you're just like really focused on it, right? It's like a thought experiment, but not as cool. Except, at the end you get a song. So maybe it is as cool, right? But this song just has like some of the coolest vocal harmonies too as well on the album. It does have the heavy use of octaves like you do in All Hail the Heartbreaker, but instead of finishing lines on the octave, it kind of morphs into like that. I don't know if it's a third or it's a fifth, but I know it as like emo harmonies essentially, right? Like again, my brain is like all clouded with music knowledge, so like sometimes I'll have like the exact name for it, and sometimes it's just some name I made up in my head, and that's the way it always goes. But it kind of like turns the harmony it makes a change like halfway through it. So you think he's gonna finish it off as like an octave, and then it turns into like a third. It's like, whoa, okay. It kind of turns the script on you, makes it a little bit interesting, and not as predictable, frankly. And I kind of like when vocal lines or guitar lines are a little bit less predictable. And of course, to complement the happy major sounds on the guitars, the lyrics are just extremely heartfelt, right? Like maybe a little confusing on the bridge on the end, though, because he says something about a saccharin scent, and I don't know what saccharin means. And maybe I'm just stupid. I don't really know, but that part literally confuses me every single time. It's a cool part because he's just essentially like, he has the C sharp into it, right? It's just a cool 4-chord note, right? C sharp, E major, B major, A major. It's just a cool little, aside there, and like a cool outro bridge, I guess you could say. But like I said before, this was the first song I ever recorded when I was doing like covers, when I essentially got my first recording set up in the house I'm in now, actually. So I've been like recording and doing stuff like this for a couple years, and essentially that's what led to me podcasting was, Randy coming over and saying, hey, do you want to start a podcast where we talk about BT? And I had the equipment. He goes, do you think you could do it? I go, yeah, absolutely. I have Logic. I have this, I have that, and it really pushed me to getting more into recording, I think. And, doing, mixing on songs, and, now it's all I do. I spend most of my time here. Like I'm looking at my computer right now, you know what I mean? So it's just really different. And, I don't know. It's just a song that always stuck with me. It's a fun song to play and sing at the same time. I won't do it now because I'm going to post the outro. I'll post the cover for it, but maybe I'll throw it up on the Facebook group or something so somebody can take a listen to it, because you won't really hear it over my talking. But just a great love ballad, though. It really is. 10 out of 10. Definitely in my books. Maybe not number one on the album, but up there. And for the final choice I have here, it's Sunsets and Car Crashes. And Sunsets and Car Crashes is the titled track off this album, the self-titled track, I guess. It's a self-titled album if it's a self-titled track. But there's a reason why it is the title track. It ends out the album, and it's not just a cool name. You know what I mean? But, I mean, maybe it's a little bit because of that. This song is just like an absolutely awesome ballad. Same as the song before, for all the reasons I mentioned in Riff City, but not to mention all of its lyrics, right? So, like the chorus part that I was talking about. So, it's more like uplifting, right? I was playing it for you earlier. But yeah, like the lyrics on that. And in case you were wondering, you were like a sunset to me. You're all kinds of beautiful as you end my day. And you sweetly retire as the stars chase you away. Right, and back into the main riff. It's just one of those songs. Sorry about the mess up there. Again, like I told you, it's been a while since I've been playing. So, but it's just really like an amazing expression of love, really. It adds such a cool turn after that verse. So the verse is like super, and pre-chorus riffs, like the one that I was discussing in Riff City, they're super melancholic. And like, it just, the riff becomes, more major and flowing, almost changing the tone of the song. Really, it's more of like a hopeful love ballad where, technically the lyrics are really, lovey-dovey and stuff like that over top of it anyways, but it's just the minor notes and stuff like that give it like a weird, almost like a juxtaposition, essentially. Like it's like it should sound like a, right, those are the chords for, the verse and the intro and stuff like that, where it sounds like it should be, a little bit more like dark, I guess, but then, it turns into this, just this beautiful, like, melodic, it's no secret I've also covered this song, you know what I mean? Because it was the second song I recorded with this setup. But I won't throw out that cover on the end, though, because I didn't really do this song any justice. I mean, you just heard me play it here. I already messed it up again. Like I said, should have practiced. Always practice, kids. I'm telling you. Always practice your instruments, because this is what happens. I've been playing since I was 7 years old, and look, I still messed up a song I've played a million times. But this song is just like an amazing way to wrap up the album. It leaves the whole album on a positive note, where there's a lot of very aggressive songs, I should say. And maybe not aggressive is the right word, but like more like sad and angry songs, where this kind of lifts it up at the end, you know what I mean? And it just kind of sums up, love is amazing, but it comes with a cost, the cost of pain sometimes, right? So, but that's kind of my choices for like the tracks on the album. I think, you know what, like I've been going on for a little bit here. Let's just run it right into Over and Under. So for Over Under this week, I personally don't think there's really an overrated song on this album. It could be an argument that All Hail the Heartbreaker could be that song because of its, a little bit more more playability. I guess people have heard it a little bit more. It's definitely one that shows up on like every emo playlist ever. So I can get how that one would be like pushed a little bit harder as an overrated song. But the song So Much, to me, I think it just become like a skip song. So it's not really a bad song, because it's like very flowy, right? Right? It's not really a bad song. Like, you hear the notes, they're pretty good. And I think the biggest problem with this song that I have with it, it was, it's very clearly like probably an earlier song he recorded. Like, it's very simple, The lyrics honestly seem too literal to me. And it just kind of turns me off and takes me out of the song when the lyrics are a little too literal. So no pun intended, a little too literal. But I don't know, they just don't really hit home with me. I'm not going to sit here and recite them all, but it's a shame that the lyrics kind of take me out of it, because really I do really love the open E and A chords, right? And I was playing the riff before, right? It sounds really beautiful, right? Like, and it's very, very well written in terms of like guitar and stuff like that. Very simple, but very well written. And I think it's just, another it's like another use of this scale that's like a made up pentatonic scale. Like a lot of acoustic ballads like from like emo bands will use it. Like Dashboard Confessional has a song called Standard Lines, right? Right, so it's that like, or sorry, you know what I mean? Like, they're just kind of riding on these weird notes. And it's very strange, like, and it doesn't really have any rhyme or reason to it, right? So, right? You know what I mean? They sound good. They all sound good with the chords, but they don't actually have any rhyme or reason to why they work. They just sound good. So, yeah, I love when that scale's used. Like, it's pretty much the only scale I can flawlessly solo in. Let's put it that way. But for my underrated pick, this album, I guess, this week, doesn't matter. I don't know. It's all blending together. Sorry, I also have to record later today. I will actually be recording another episode with a buddy of mine, doing From Death to Destiny by Asking Alexandria. So that one's going to be fun, too. We're going to go a little bit deeper on that one. But my underrated pick for this album is Your Evil Soul. And it's the only song with drop D on this album. It's the only song in pretty much a different tuning, because all he does is really move up all the rest of the songs with a capo. But this song is just like littered with dark themes lyrically and just dark riffs instrumentally. Like, it's just a right. I love that weird, I don't know what they call it, just like a flourish, like, right? I've written songs like that myself with those exact same notes. The bridge is like almost kind of different. We'll get to that though. This song seems to almost like work through a breakup as it's being written. If that kind of makes any sense. The lyrics showcase just like how intense the anger of the subject of this song can be at like their former partner, while also like diving into like their damaged psyche, right? Because these are the pre-chorus to chorus lyrics, right? You're floating above my head. There are words carved in my chest, and they said, "Could somebody show me the kind of affection that you only see in the movies? You know what I mean. You know what I mean." So it's just very powerful, powerful lyrics. All of this just complemented with the amazing acoustic riffs and chords, and just such cool little lead riffs like sprinkled in. Like they're very, very subtle. A lot of like slide use. It kind of sounds like on the guitar, like, or just like I guess like volume control, you know what I mean? But it's very interesting. And of course, with this band, the voicing on the chords, it never ceases to amaze me. Like, I love the D with, and then I guess that's a C. I don't know. B flat. Okay, it's a B flat, and then you have your C as well. You can almost drop the C and put a the B flat and put an A on it, which is pretty cool as well. That always works. Just a little secret there, just in case you're trying to write in that key. What's interesting about this song though is that Nick Thomas, he uses like full band incorporation at the very end of it to really drive home like a happy bridge. And while like most of the song is acoustic, it breaks into like a more forgiving attitude towards the person who hurt the subject. So like there's like a build up with instruments into like a final chorus with a full band. So that's pretty cool. I like the idea of having like a bridge that's just a build up, just rocking on those like tom and snare and bass drum and stuff like that. But he just goes ham on the drums at the end. I don't really know like what he was thinking on there, because it's like it seems like really loud. And we kind of talked about it, or I talked about it, sorry, with Tracy when we did Evanescence. I think that was the last one we just did. Sorry. I record these like well in advance, so it's hard for me to remember. But yeah, we talked about that. When you just let the drummer go ham sometimes, it does sound funny, but like it does give it that like more epic sound, you know what I mean? So it's just so heavy, and it really wraps up the song in a cool way, right? Like right? So it has like that like weird I always love like weird like syncopated rhythms like that. Definitely adds like a little bit of like a different sort of style, especially since like this song is so different than every song on the album. It could definitely like be put on a complete other album, really, honestly. But I like the fact that he kept it in there. It's just a little bit of difference and breaks up the tracks. I really enjoy it. Underrated song for sure. But that kind of brings us to our final thoughts, so let's just throw it to that.
Final toast.
So I'm gonna get a little bit real right now, and these are kind of like my final thoughts on the wrap up of this album. But the thing about this album was that it came out at a time where I was discovering things like like drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. And I was fairly young. I was, maybe a little bit more angry, or, felt a little bit more misunderstood, because frankly, I was just a teenager. I was, 14, 15 when this album came out. It was, kind of a weird time, because I was spending like a lot of my time just kind of self-medicating, which, like just drinking a lot or smoking a lot of marijuana, unfortunately. And it was frankly like just a weird time in my life, and I wasn't really trying to change. I just wanted to be miserable, frankly, or angry, right? So something about this album kind of helped me find some solace in it. Maybe like kind of turn into like, maybe turn more towards music and have a little bit more fun with that. And it was definitely like a bright spot. But unfortunately, like when you're that age, your psyche is just like one run-on sentence, essentially. Like everything happens all at once. Like, I gotta do this and this and this and this. You can't like differentiate between things, and it makes you feel maybe a little bit more intense than it should. But the ballads on this album seem to like, you know, strike a chord with me and like have definitely like shaped my music taste and my music writing really. Like I would just sit and listen to this album for hours and hours. I didn't care. I just shut everything out. You know, my friends would be calling me to come hang out. No. I'm just going to sit around today and do that and just kind of sit and, you know, really work through my feelings. It kind of forced me to do some stuff like that. But, you know, the voicing on the chords on this album are something that like really resonated with me and kind of like opened up a new, you know, like a new style of writing for me. And it definitely helped me, like, you know, really push me to start writing my own music. So like, you know, the open D and C, right? E minor, that whole set of chords, you know, C to A, like, you know, A, or then you could even do a D that way, you know, stuff like that. Like I started to really like just experiment with stuff. And really at the end of the day though, plain and simple, it's just a well-written pop album in terms of song composition. There's a lot of, you know, repetition in terms of the instrumentals. Like, you know, it'll be a theme. He'll like pretty much run one riff and just kind of go off on it and maybe mix in like, you know, like a 1-4-5 or a, you know, 1-5-1 or something like that. Just, you know, just like, you know, basic pop songwriting, right? So, but it's only because the lyrics on this album are the focal point of all these songs. You can really tell that Nick Thomas here really put his heart and soul into this album. I mean, he literally did the entire thing almost by himself, right? So, and like I said earlier, something about bands that, you know, do this where they write all these songs and then they like, you know, get a touring band to go with them. Beartooth, again, like I said, prime example. Caleb Shomo writes all his own music. He records it and produces it himself. There's something to that gives it like that little bit more heart and soul. It's because they like live and breathe these songs, right, when they do them. So it's, I don't know, something about them always draws me to it. Rocket Summer, Bryce Avery, he's a prime example. I don't think he's ever changed. I don't think he even has touring musicians. I think now he just goes around and plays like acoustic or like piano sets at places, right? So he'll always be by himself, it looks like, but he writes amazing songs. Why wouldn't he, right? You know what I mean? So even, the Foo Fighters' first album, Color and Shape, right? Dave Grohl did that entire album by himself. It's so impressive. Like, I don't know how these guys do it. I could never do it myself. Even though I do play all the instruments, I find it like hard to just do the arrangements and stuff like that. But this album is really just a classic, like an emo classic in my opinion. And anyone who's into that type of music should at least listen to this once. Now, I know I may be biased because of how much of an emotional impact this album had on my life, but I kind of defy you to not fall in love with at least one song on this album after listening to it. It's amazing, plain and simple. But I think I'm gonna wrap it up there, guys. Sorry, I got a little emotional there at the end. But I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. So I'm just gonna run straight into my thank yous. I just want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. I hope you guys are enjoying it. If you want, join the Patreon, SNME Radio. Thanks again to those guys. But it's only $1 a week. Patreon.com/SNME Radio. What are you doing? We have a bunch more shows coming up. A couple more. You know, not so much programming changes. We're pretty much settled on what we have right now, but you can go check out all you want, you know, like MMA, wrestling. We got it all. Pop culture, you know. Check it all out. And if you want to, you know, see more of me, follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/ERKE90. I'll be there playing some sort of game that hasn't been popular in 15 years. Although recently I have been playing, you know, more popular games like WWE 2K23, stuff like that. So maybe catch me on there, and I will see you guys, I guess, next week or the week after for AEW TF, and if not, I'll catch you on my next episode. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Peace out.
And to be completely honest, you're not like